distinguished participant of the advanced course at the Center for Innovation in Procurement, Environmental and Social Standard. My name is Dr. A.D. Teran, a renowned facilitator at the center, and I will be taking you basically on internally displaced persons, a lot of issues that are involved with it, livelihood, a lot of these basic issues, how we settle those kind of issues. Welcome to Social Standard Space. Internally displaced persons. That is model 1. That's what we'll be dealing with. What is internally displaced person? But first of all, look at the course objective. What is the course objective? The objective at the end of the day, you should be able to understand the global statistics of the internally displaced person across the globe, across Africa, across Nigeria, and what has been bedeviling the issues and a lot of issues, a lot of problems that are associated, which you will be supposed to understand and differentiate between the IDPs, the internally displaced person, the refugees, the asylum seekers, and all of that. We'll be handling at the end of the day. If you look at the global statistics of the internally displaced, you discover that throughout the world, about 20.8 million people are displaced from one reason or the other. The source of this displacement could be as a result of natural disasters. Some are man-made. Natural disasters such as war, you discover climate change, issues like flooding, issues like one issue of that, and then issues like conflict. And then about 50 million people as a result of the IDPs, 4.4 million people that are asylum seeking, and then you also discover that 3.9 you can see from Venezuela, additionally 5.7 million people as a result of the war. You can see the war between the Palestine and the Israel, right? The issue of Russia and Ukraine is one of them. The typical issue that has been disturbing us in the North Central geopolitical zone, issue of the Fulani herdsmen, and then the farmers has also been one of the issues you will discover in the internally displaced person. We'll be looking at all of that. We'll be looking at the impact. That's supposed to be a video. You will be able to watch all of that. You'll be able to watch that video. You will see a lot of people displaced in one issues of the other. And then the internally displaced person. There are a group of persons who has been forced. They have been forced to oblige to leave their home or flee from home habitually. And then as a result of generalized violence, conflict, just like I mentioned, they are one way or the other. You can see literally that they are all over the country. In the Benue Valley, in the Niger Delta, in the southwestern part of the country, even in Sudan, neighboring country, Cameroon, for one reason or the other. And the World Bank in its own wisdom, and the Center for Innovation in Procurement, Environmental and Social Standard, our great Cyprus, is big at the ways of creating awareness of issues of handling this situation that can be resolved amicably, so that we will move forward with the standard of it. Then we'll also be looking at the refugees. The difference between, you should be able to know the the difference between the refugees and the IDP. You know that for the internet displaced person, it was within the country, but the refugee basically is outside a lot of people that have been displaced and outside the country of origin, who cannot or willing to return due to unfounded reason. Such kind of people will refer to them as the refugee. And the persons who are outside the country of origin, they fear persecution, they fear anything like even persecution as a result of that conflict, as a result of violence, as a result of even Boko Haram, all of that. Once they're outside the country, even if it's in Cameroon, in Sudan, or even some other neighboring country, they are refugees already. Then we'll also be looking at the causes. What are the causes? What are the basic causes of these internally displaced persons in the country? There are a lot of causes, just like we talk about the natural causes, we talk about the man-made causes, persecution based on race, issue of membership of particular people and a social group, and the issue like war, the issue of ethnic and political violence. I agree. Like all of this will result in internally displaced person at the end of it, causing a lot of numerous destruction and a lot of attendant consequences. You will be able to look at that. And we're looking at it. Let's look at this. These pictures very well. Look at the refugees. They are fleeing their home across the country. You look at their IDPs fleeing their homes for reason of refugee, but they also look at the asylum seekers and then the migrants. The migrants from the pictures, it can be clearly says picture down line. So you should be able to look at it critically, and should be able to assess the situation so that you can be able to understand. Then you also look at the reason for displacement. War is one of them. Natural causes is one of them. Flooding. often in the 2022, 2023, even this very year, 2024, a lot of people have been displaced as a result of flood. One reason of that, there also been a lot of internal crisis, violence, war in Plateau State, in Benue State, in Kogi State, even Ogun, some other parts of the northern region in Borno and Adamawa State. There has been a lot of all of this as a result of one reason or the other. We'll be tackling all of that. We'll be owning all of that. The causes of also displacement. It could be earthquake. It could be tornado. It could be hurricane. It could be landslide. It could be meteorite, flood. It could be forest fire or tsunami. As these are also other causes of displacement that have been developed, kind of bedeviling our society, that have been disturbing us, and they have a lot of direct or indirect impact. They have a lot of multiplier effects. If you say that you are not affected, maybe your brother may be affected, your sisters may be affected, your in-law may be affected, your friend may be affected, one person you know that know the other person will be affected. At the end of the day, economically, you discover that it has a lot of effect on the country, it has on the state, it has on the community, and it depletes a lot of things that has become a very important issue. We have to look at it. At the end of this, you should be able to, in the discussion, you should be able to tell me the difference between the refugees, you should be able to tell me the difference between IDPs, you should be able to tell me who is an asylum seeker, you should be able to also tell me migration. All of that, you are going to discuss them, distinguished participants, in the discussion follow. Explain to them and explain vividly very well for us to be sure that you assimilate and you're taking one or two things from this very course participation. The next we'll be talking about module 2 is that the impact of displacement. The reality and the impact of displacement. What is the impact of this displacement? What is that the causes? You don't have a lot of negative impact. You also have a lot of positive impact. But you discover that the negative impact outweighs the positive impact. And we shall be looking at them. You shall be taking up. If you look at the fact sheets from the United Nations Human Commission, High Commission for Refugees, we want to deal with record that's available. You discover that about 100 million people mark the total displacement. Over 1.2 of those kind of global population, you discover that those people have been displaced in one issue or the other. About 3.5 million refugees that can be seen in the picture in Syria, in Sudan. You discover also in the Congo, Brazzaville, or Democratic Republic of Congo, even Nigeria, even if it's not even spared. You look at the patches, you'll be able to digest, just like it's showing on from the slide here. Look at them very well. You will also be talking about images of refugees. Look at the images of refugees. Look at how they are battered. Look at how they are psychologically affected. Look at the anxiety in their faces. All hope seems that hope is lost. These are the impact. These are the negative impact of displacement that has been developing in our society. Images continue. Look at the kind of people involved. Our very beautiful women. Look at the children that are vulnerable as a result of displacement. Where are they going? They don't even seem to know where they're going. They're more of wanderers. And you can see that in that kind of situation, these are the people we call them leaders of tomorrow. The impact of displacement is on them. These are at this very age. If our mothers, our sisters are engaged at this level, you should know that our society is bleak and it has a lot of negative impact. Look at some other ones. From there, they're supposed to be in school. A very beautiful young guy. Can I call him chairman or the governor or his excellency? Is there barefooted, no shoe, nothing? He was able to even wear any shirts. Moving from that. These are the negative impact of displacement in our society that has been disturbing us and is very, very bad. We should also be look at the pictorial, the whole of the community. NEMA has to come into rescue. The National Agency for Emergency, even considering collaboration with State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA. The whole of the community, a lot of women in their thousands are displaced, not going to work, not embarking on their livelihood activities, farm work, all of that, as can be seen in the pictorial. All of that. You can also see some other impact of displacement. There are lots of people that sink, they are dumped, and they have also looked dejected as a result of displacement. This can be a lot of impact of displacement as we're seeing in these very pictures. At the end of the day, you should be able to have an exercise and the discussion you have to discuss in a discussion forum here. You should be able to discuss the consequences of displacement on communities. Discussion should be what are the consequences of displacement in the community, in your community, in the state where you belong, in any community you know. As a result, you should be able to tell us the consequences of all of this displacement. It's very, very important for us to know. Now, you have learned one or two things. We'll be moving to the next. We'll be looking at the consequences of displacement. Of course, I did before then, but I want you to discuss. Increased morbidity, Food insecurity, loss of access to community. When we talk about food insecurity as a result of this displacement, we're talking about inability, the absence of food. The food is unavailable. When it's available, it's not affordable. Affordability, accessibility, and even the nutrition. You discover that where it is even available, it affects the nutritious content of that food. Do they eat balanced diet? When you don't know very well that at the end of the day, you'll not be able to. Then there's also social disarticulation or loss of resilience and human rights. Most of them, as a result of the consequences of displacement, they will not be in school. They will not be able to attend to healthcare activities in the hospitals. They will not be able to attend to their hospitals. And you discover that health is wealth. But in the case of displacement, you look like a beggar. You don't have much choice. The issue of social disarticulation, living their community. You may be in a community whereby your own community norms and values are the variance of those ones, but you don't have choice. Then the issue of resilience, loss of resilience. Most of them, basically, they had period to their displacement, they had the capacity to be able to take care of themselves, and then the post-displacement also, the loss of resilience and capability to deal with some kind of situation, and most of the consequences you'll be able to know. Then you're able to look at the issue of food insecurity. Look at them. These are displaced people. They are looking more of the vulnerable. They are looking more of the marginaries. Look at people struggling for food. These are able people that will hit at up, they will contributing or helping people in one way or the other. Remember, me and you can be in this situation. And that is why Cyprus, that is why the World Bank is very serious about this kind of situation for us to know, so that at the end of the day, we don't land ourselves, our society don't turn to a displaced society. We should be able, just like we start from the overview of learning, we should be able to also look at the issue of morbidity. Somebody is weakened to a level that we discover that he's unable to talk, unable to be devil with kwashiorkor. Look at the mom struggling to feed, all of that. Then once you're absent-minded, you are not very strong enough to handle capable and handleable issue. Even academics, even participants that were participating in this kind of certificate course, advanced certificate course, you will not be able to. If your people are involved, you will be disturbed in one way or the other. So it's very important for us to know the consequences and why. The loss of properties. A lot of properties will be lost in the process. Land, buildings, schools, artifacts, all of that. You discover that even clothes, the basic things of life, food, shelter, and clothing, they will be lost in the course of displacement. And you begin to move from one place to another. It's also one of the consequences we'll be looking at. And then, the loss of human right. You don't have fundamental human right. The right to live, the right to education, the right to food, the right to even complain. And perpetually, a lot of people take advantage because of this lack of fundamental human right that is supposed to have or enjoy. And that is one of the issues that is very important to us. Once your fundamental human right is lost, you are also automatically lost in the society. That's some of the consequences. Loss of resilience, we discussed it earlier. We talked about issue whereby period to displacement, you'll be able to take care of yourselves, but now you don't have the capacity, you don't have the capability, you don't have the ways of making issues like you preparing for yourself, making income, going activities as a result of loss, as a result of consequences of displacement. We are looking at the project affected persons. These are people that are directly affected as a result of displacement, as a result of one project or the other. It could be infrastructural development project, it could be road project, it could be dams, it could be even issues like bridges in the community, it could be even issues like siting of university, community, or school. A lot of issues, people will certainly be displaced. And that is not handled very well, temporary or permanently, including land and all of that. That has to be taken care of. Once you displace them, you have to take very good care of that. And we'll take care of developmental induced displacement. You're talking about issues of development, just like we mentioned before. Some other people are displaced not because of all this Boko Haram, not because of Fulani husband, but basically because of development. For development to come, there must be one way or the other. One team must be affected. If you want to construct road, just for example, the road is being constructed from Abuja to Kefi to Akwanga to Makurdi down to Otukbo to Enugu. They are talking about dualization of that road. Just like you're talking about Abuja Kaduna Road and basically Ibadan Lagos Expressway. A lot of people, houses, a lot of businesses, a lot of kiosks, a lot of folks, a lot of people will be affected in one way or the other. And this kind of a situation, you discover that it's very, very important that all that should be taken into cognizance. And then we'll also be looking at this resettlement of people, resettlement of those projects affected. It has to be a fundamental plan. There have to be a method. There have to be issues that are globally improved executing displacement for the development. Careful planning and implementation to some extent, and best practices in resettlement is also very important. This is the standard days that say, he who fails to plan is planning to do what? To fail. So you know that in resettlement of these people, in displaced people, you have to prepare very well ahead. You have to put your budget in order. You have to get human resources involved. You have to even get psychologists and experts that are involved in that kind of situation. But that you'll be able to handle them amicably, and issue will be resolved so that our country will move forward, Nigeria will move forward, our various state, and our standard of living will improve without a lot of effect. Relocation and resettlement. This is a person that can benefit from the plan, relocations and resettlement. Look at the people that should benefit. All people with rights of ownership, certificate of occupancy, people that are in one way or the other beneficial. They benefit from this project. Those kind of people also have to do what? They also have to be in one way or other resettled properly. And then there are also a lot of finances from the World Bank and other multilateral organization action plans that due to very dire consequence of displacement that should be handled, and should be handled in a transparent manner following due process with devoid of corruption. We also talk about the issue of mitigation. Mitigation simply means trying to reduce the burden, trying to reduce the hardship. The upset, you talk about reduce, the rectify, minimize to avoid, decreasing the preference. Mitigation is very, very important. If you don't mitigate a situation, at the end of the day, it may go out of the hand and the whole of the society will be affected. Everybody will be affected. So this handle as mitigation, reducing hierarchy, just like I can be seen here, is very important for development. Then we talk about the hierarchy. You have to anticipate, avoid risks. Apart from avoiding risks, you minimize. If you cannot minimize, you reduce. You should be able to rectify, offset such issues, and handle them very well so that the people that are affected in one project or the other, such kind of people, once this mitigation plan is avoided and all of that, it will be very, very important that we'll move ahead. There will be a lot of development and all of that. Then we adopt a kind of a differentiated measures, the measures that will be able to talk about issues. Participants, you have to take care of mitigation, even in your home, in your community. You have to also take care of that at the state for us to move everywhere. We talk about the hierarchy continuum. You have to be very, very specific in your plan. What you are trying to do, what you are trying to avoid, minimizing, compensating, and establishing the basis for agreement. And involve all the people. In the decision-making process, that has to be involved. If Mr. A is involved, Mr. B is involved, Mrs. B involved, involve all of them in the mitigation process, in the trying to handle this issue very well. We should be able to also handle that. At the end of the day, the issue of exercise, then you should be able to tell me what is the essence of the resettlement action plan. What is the essence of the resettlement action plan? By now, distinguished participants, you should be able to tell me, and you can discuss that in the discussion forum, telling me the essence of resettlement plan, and it's very important how you may be in charge. What are the consequences of displacement? For me to be very sure you were listening, you were enjoying the lectures, and that has a lot to be done. You have to tell me the consequences of displacement, those kind of consequences you should be able to tell me and tell us very well in your discussion forum. Next we'll be talking about livelihood restoration and the strategies. That is module 3. In module 3, we're talking about livelihood. What is livelihood? We'll be looking at all of that. We'll be looking at issues like objective of the livelihood. At the end of the lectures, at the end of the setting, we should be able to tell us, basically participants should be able to strengthen their understanding of the livelihood and all of that. It's very important. That's the objective of the livelihood, of the module. And then we should be able to look at issue of introduction. Introduction globally, livelihood is basically talking about issues like all you need to do, you have to do very well is that in livelihood has to be the means of how one be able to acquire income, means of survival, daily activities, how one is being able to, those kind of people that are displaced persons, pressing need, they have to be in sufficient resemblance and all of that. However, cultivating them, getting them livelihood activities, things that they'll be able to embark upon so that they can be able to do one or two things or the other without begging is very important. And then we are also able to look at what is livelihood. Well, livelihood comprises of capability, assets, it comprises of social resources, activity that require means of living. It's simply your means of living. Means of living means you are required. Let me give an example of livelihood. Issues like embarking in agriculture, This is like entrepreneurship. Going to the farm is a means of livelihood. Somebody who is selling is a means of livelihood. A typist, if you're a photographer, is a means of livelihood. All of that. Not just only that, cooking is also in the people that are displaced. Hairdressing, hair making, all of that are livelihood. You can engage them in issues like dry cleaning. People that are in one way or the other has been displaced, so that they don't resort to begging on the street, seeing them from one to the other. You will have means of livelihood activities, and then it's the essence of that. Caution. You should be able to tell me, have you ever been involved in activities aimed at restoring livelihood in your community? Have you ever been able to, what simply means asking is, have you ever been involved in activities that you can be able to help someone get a means of living? Let's say an income, barber shop, issues like trying to assist them, teach them, create awareness for them to embark, all these POS vendors, all these washing in them, making of soap. You should be able to discuss that, and let's all have that very clear, in a very clear terms in the discussion forum. Examples of livelihood activities. Examples of livelihood activities, we're talking about agricultural initiatives, in agriculture, in poultry, in livestock. You are talking about cattle rearing. You're talking about all this kind of chicken production, bird production. We talk about craftsmanship. You can be electricians, people like electricians trying to one way or the other, computer operator, small-scale businesses. We talk about issues like clothing, tailoring. A lot of people, issues like makeup. You can embark, displaced people can teach them how to make makeup, and that will be able to provide income for them. They get something for them to be able to enjoy themselves. You can also get in businesses. Okada, there can be Okada riders, or tricyclists. That's a means of transportation, getting them an example of livelihood activities that are very important. Food services, they could be food vendors. There they prepare food, they sell their food, education and tutoring, organize lectures for them at the camp, even at the camp, at the community there. They'll be able to do something very well. How you try to do is that you try to look at issues like healthcare services, provide healthcare, community extension working for them. That is also means of livelihood. You'll be able to teach them. And it's better for you to teach them how to catch fish than to do what? To give them fish. That is what the center is preaching. That's what the World Bank is trying to educate us in this course. Trying to build capacity for us, the kind of training, for us to have a kind of livelihood examples that will be able to take care of ourselves, and those, especially those that have been displaced in the internally, even refugees. And I want important exercises we have to want to participate or to do is that, what livelihood activities are common in your immediate communities? You should be able to tell me the kind of livelihood communities that are very common in your town, in your community, in your state. And the other one is that, what other livelihood activities would you suggest for the IDP? In your own opinion, you should be able to suggest some other livelihood opinions, your means of income or means of living that internally displaced people, in one way or the other, whatever they may have caused, how they will be able to survive and be able to do with one issues of the other. The next we're talking about is livelihood restoration. It's basically a pivotal, very important in addressing the affected challenges faced by the IP. It's a kind of an essential, trying to get something just for them to restore their strategy. We're going back to issues like livelihood activities, rehabilitation, how they'll go back to normalcy and everything will be done. That's kind of a livelihood restoration strategies we'll be looking at. And should be able to, by now, you'll be able to understand the issues that we consider. The assets of the people, which kind of assets, the strategy that they develop to make a living, and then those factors that make livelihood less vulnerable. We'll have to also look at those factors. In choosing a livelihood, in constructing a livelihood, you should be able to consider those factors. You should be able to look at that factor, think inward, and be able to know what you are doing and what you should be engaged. The strategy how the people can access and use them. They ranges from diversity of livelihood. An individual can take or serve activities or meet a lot of livelihood. If you are Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C can also come back, combining a lot of strategies to be able to secure a living, a better standard of living, and therefore it goes back to rehabilitation, we go back to normalcy, and the people will be better off in the processes of doing. The livelihood strategy to prevent and to mitigate. In the process of preventing and mitigating, simply mean we have to reduce their suffering. You have to also try to mitigate the kind of issues they're getting by engaging in one activities of the other. If they are engaged in one activity, the devil, an idle man is what the devil's workshop. So that's what happening at the deepest, a lot of these IDPs. In the IDPs, you make sure you engage them Recognize potentials among them. By the time you get into survey, interact with them, involve them, all of them, you discover a lot of them have potential that ordinary people that have not been displaced. And that you can be able to utilize, advise in one way or the other. Some strategies include skills, training, and capacity building. You can train them in skills, in computer, in software development. They can do very well in video recording, in photography, in farming. We mentioned that microfinance and seed capital. You can be able to provide soft loan for them with minimal interest. The people are vulnerable already. They have been down already. By the time all they need, they have a lot of skill. They have a lot of skills, but what they simply need is capital. Provide loan to them. You can do it as philanthropist, an individual. The state can take care of that. The NGOs can take care of that, just like the World Bank is also doing. You can also talk about market access and linkages. You facilitate connections for them. Nowadays, market can be done even online. You'll be able to using hashtag. You have to use a lot of social media, Facebook, all of that, advertising, and this will go global. Once it goes global, a lot of people, they will be secure and get a lot of help. These are some cooperative and collective enterprises. Encourage the IDPs to form cooperative. If they form cooperative, they are in groups. It's better for them. It's more easier for them to be able to get assistance, enabling assistance from even corporate organizations, NGOs, even in government. And then there's also this diversification of livelihood. They should not depend on one. You can diversify your livelihood. If you're a photographer, it's also possible. Apart from being a photographer, you can also be a farmer. If for you to be a farmer, it can also be that you can be involved in soap making. And if you are into soap making, it's also very possible for you to be involved into what is known as what? Makeup artist. Apart from that, you could also operate a POS. So by the time you are into diversify, you are into multitasking, you engage in one thing or the other, you'll be better off. The kind of social support network, access to financial services. Ensure that the IDP, they have access to financial services such as bank. Apart from banks, most of the time, they don't have access to financial services. They have to travel long one. They have even the little they have for them to access all of that. In a global society, that's not too good. Look at the kind of livelihood activities. A very beautiful mother, beautiful woman, and I can assure you, she's doing very well. This is agriculture, farming, and all of that. This kind of livelihood is very important and cool. Another livelihood activities, we can also see that there is involved in craft. The craft is also very important. That kind of craft is very important, and it is very nice when we engage in livelihood activities that is going on there. We also talk about issues like caution. There are a lot of cautions that are involved. You discover that this you're able to tell me the caution in the livelihood. What are livelihood strategies? I mentioned many of them. Let's have them in the discussion forum. What factors must be considered in developing one? What are the factors that must be considered when you are developing the livelihood activities? And you should give 5 examples of strategy that can be used to restore livelihood for IDP. You can do more than that. We're just talking about 5. There are a lot of strategies, a lot of skills. I know you are capable and competent participant. You should be able to tell me all of that in a discussion forum, and I will look at it very critically. The next we'll be talking about is durable solution. What is durable solution? Or with all that we talk about IDP, the effect of IDP, the impact of IDP, both negative and positive, the consequences, livelihood restoration. The next is durable solution, which is the last module for the day. Durable solution, they refer as the strategy that provides sustainable resources for internally displaced persons. They provide sustainable resources for the IDPs. This solution, they aim to rebuild the IDP. They aim to rebuild, they aim to revitalize, they aim to revamp, they aim to restructure. This IDP in the durable solution, they are able to make them better and normalize them, getting back to normalcy to do a very powerful and improve their standard of living. Not just for themselves, for their community, for the state, for the nation, and the society will be better. What is the durable solution for internally displaced persons? We mentioned many of them. They no longer have a specific assistance, protection, need, or all of that. Human rights, we should be able to be durable solutions that are very important and very, very important for us to be able to look at that. The 3 main categories of durable solution, we talk about the return, we talk about local integration. The solution involves IDP returning back to their home. The IDP should return back to their home, to their places of abode, where it's not possible for them to return where they're, in terms of security, in terms of situation. You should create an enabling environment, and where they are relocating or resettled, it should be almost be covered or equal. Key aspects of those solutions include ensure that local integration into the IDP settling in their current locations and becoming permanent. in one way or the other. It's very important. And that should be done in conjunction with them. You consult them, you discuss with them. They have their feelings, they have their preference, they have their choice, they have their way, in one way to contribute to make the society. And it's about teamwork. What we define as teamwork here? Teamwork here is together, everyone achieve more. That is the full, simple definition of the teamwork and the main categories of the durable solution we're talking about. We talk about the resettlement, involves relocating IDPs to a new place, and then you should be able to handle all of that we've been talking about. This solution requires providing IDPs with access to adequate housing, education. Apart from housing, education should be considered, health facilities should be considered, opportunity for them to even get employed. Where there is unemployment surge, where there is the kind of inflation, get them involved. Once they're involved in all of that part of durable solution, you discover that they will contribute to the society. And that takes me to the questions that we're just like you're trying to round up now. What are durable solutions? You should be able to tell us what are durable solutions. Why are they very important in the context of the IDP, internally displaced persons? Why is they will have to provide durable solution for the IDP or internally displaced person? What factors determine whether return to the place of origin are feasible during durable solution? What are the factors? Some factors that will warrant that people should return. Some will not warrant. You should be able to discuss all of that in discussion forum, and then you should be able to determine very well and very, very important. Best wishes, good luck, great participant. Thank you, and God bless you all.